muted this whole time, Travis? You?
You make sure Travis wins the next before they record. Every time you mute set. I can only hear you through the ceiling back. I can't hear your microphones. I see you talking to me, but I can't hear you. Now, now I'm nervous.
That sounds really good, by the way.
Okay, we're live. Welcome to City Council meeting in Spanish Fork City, Tuesday, July 16th, 2024. Thank you, everybody, for joining us in person. Thanks for everybody joining us online on YouTube and all over the world as well. We'll get started like we always do here in Spanish Fork with a prayer and a pledge. Councilwoman Beck will give us the spiritual thought or prayer tonight, and then Councilman Marshall has the assignment to lead us in the pledge.
Our dear Father in heaven, we're so very grateful and humbled to have the opportunity to be here and serve this community. And we're thankful for all of our friends and coworkers and associates who live in this community. We pray for their safety during this busy time of year, especially this upcoming week. Please watch over and protect and bless all of us as we're out in our activities and being involved with one another. We pray that we can all serve one another and go out of our way to lift one another and be helpful. And we pray for this country and this state. We're thankful for our many blessings, and we say these things humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Y'all, please rise and join with me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Whose is this? It's not mine.
Okay, thank you, everyone. It takes us to item 4 on our agenda, public comments. Anybody from the public that would like to address the mayor or council, this is your time to please do so, and make sure you get your name to Tara so we get you on the record.
Hi, my name is Kara Lewis. I'm here representing Larson Family Farms. My parents are the owners of Larson Family Farms. They received a certification of annexation petition in the mail stating that they are a part of the West Meadows annexation, which is not true. We're in no way related to this annexation at all. And so having our name on here makes it look as though, for one, we are part of it, and two, that we're in favor of it, which we are not. So we're just asking that this can be redone, removed, and a correction sent out to all the people that it was sent to initially.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
May I? A corrected notice was sent yesterday. You may have already received it today. If you didn't, you'll receive it tomorrow. She's right. The Larson Family Farms property is adjacent to a different Larson-owned property just to the south of it. And there was a mistake made in a notice that was sent on Friday. So we've sent a corrected certification letter to everybody that the original letters were sent to. I apologize that we didn't get that right, but she's absolutely right. It's not part of the annexation.
Darrow would get the Larson Family Farms would get the corrected notice as well.
They should have, I would guess, have received it today, if not today, tomorrow.
So we've talked to a lot of our neighbors who have not received anything. There's some people listed on this that received the letter, but not landowners in the area.
That is correct. Yes, the certification letters are only sent to property owners whose property is included in the annexation, and a number of different affected entities that are identified in the state law. Different utility providers, school district, neighboring municipalities, folks like that. Now, that being said, before the city council ever is able to act on an annexation, there is a public hearing, and at that point in time, we do send notices to all property owners within 300 feet of an annexation. So at some point in the future, at this point it might be September, maybe October, you'll get a notice of a public hearing, provided that the annexation moves along.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
And I just have one other item that I wanted to address. At the meeting on July 2nd, Dave, you talked about the new master plan, potential master plan going through, and mentioned several different entities that you're going to be meeting with and discussing some of their ideas and their thoughts on that. Our family is one of the largest landowners in that area where the 5-lane highway will potentially go across the freeway, going right in front of or on top of my home, and we were not included in that list of people that you wanted to potentially discuss this with. So we are asking for an invitation to also be able to let you know and represent the agricultural community of that area and kind of share some of the things that this would affect, and also how it would definitely affect my livelihood, being one of the only people that actually lives there and owns land in that area. So, thank you.
Thank you, Kara.
Thanks, Kara.
Appreciate it. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, we'll go to council comments. Dave, before we go to council comments, Kara referenced maybe some, I know those are different entities other than us that maybe talk about roads that big, but that down the road, they should be getting notices of anything that has to do with that.
So on the master planning end of things, they don't say where the road exactly will be. It's just there has to be a 5-lane road from X to Y, and so that's been in the master plan for 15, 20 years. It's just doesn't, like, it would be impossible to say that goes over this house or that house. Sure. Or whatever. It just says some way when that interchange goes in, there will have to be this much capacity of street that connects there. So we don't have like a specific group that we notify of that. It's just published in public hearings. So I don't know how you.
That's a county one, isn't it?
She was talking about the general plan discussion last time and the list of names.
Yeah.
That's what she was more stressing.
Yeah.
Is that what you were talking about, Kara? Was the general plan or the master plan for the road?
Oh, so
Yeah.
It was not the overall general plan. It's the
transportation master
transportation
plan.
general. Yeah, that we took out that one in city council, and generally we have those all over, and it's not so much of we're putting this road right here across this house or whatever. It's just there has to be a 5-lane road from here to here in order to move the traffic when it fully develops.
I think
there's no more farms.
We don't really talk about the road and road locations in the general plan. That's more of a zoning designation. So I think
the map that you showed it. There's no way it could go around my property. The way you put it went straight directly through my property, through my dad's property.
So which would have been the transportation master plan that we discussed, which in that meeting we pulled that from our discussion because there was no decision at that point to be made.
Right. And
so
you're
asking
that there were several people you were going to be meeting with to discuss that, and we would like to be included in those discussions.
Was that
we can do
public or public? I guess I don't remember what was said. But
the 5-lane road in that area where your farm is.
They will meet with people.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. That's easy. When we talk about the road, that's
being put in.
not a
It's
problem.
changing the general plan from in front of the sugar beet factory to going across and through our property.
Okay.
Before we act on that road or in that area, we will contact you and have a conversation. Chris and the staff will do that. Seth is trying to get the word in. He will do that, but we'll make sure that happens. So I think last time we talked about, we pulled that road out because we just didn't have enough information to act, right? The list of people that we're going to talk to was in regards to the general plan, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight, I think, as well. So I think there are two different things, both of which you want to be involved with, is my understanding.
Yeah.
Right. You own property. You would like for us to have a conversation about what that looks like in the future.
People that own the property there don't live there.
Perfect.
But
Yep, I agree with you 100%. We should have a conversation.
Thanks.
And then it comes on the same night that you get a letter that is wrong, that you're not part of an annexation. So yes,
we just want to be included in the conversation.
Included in the right ones, not in the wrong ones.
Yeah.
And you will be notified of the public hearing when that annexation study happens and you're a neighbor. But good job putting that on the record that you're not part of that annexation request.
Thank you. Yeah, the last meeting just made it sound like when they just said Larson Farms, it makes it sound like it was our family.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for letting us know.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, Kara.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Okay, council comments. I think we started on that end last time, and so we're going to start in the middle more this time.
It's all geared.
Can I start?
You can start. Yep.
I don't have any comments.
No. Is there a shake on the line?
I'll wait till Fiesta Days is fully wrapped up.
Okay, and then you'll give us an update.
Yeah.
All right, I like it.
My turn?
Yep.
Stacy took all of my comments.
Nothing for you.
Nothing for
Councilman
me.
Weather has nothing.
Well, then I'll just say something at least.
Yes, you got to keep.
I just want to say a preemptive thank you to the staff and especially the EMS, fire, police, Parks and Rec, all of the departments that are going to put in a lot of hours in the next few days. Thank you for what you're doing, and then also the volunteers that are going to help make Fiesta Days what it is. So thank you. Be safe. Stay hydrated. Let's have a good Fiesta Days. And that's all I got, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Cardin. Councilman Took.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. All right, Kathleen Levitt from the Chamber of Commerce, would you like a minute? Okay, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. It's good to see your faces. I've missed a couple weeks, but it feels like a long time. So just a few updates. New networking is going to be this Thursday, July 18th, at the Veterans Memorial Building. We're going to be speed networking. Lorraine Moore from Nebo Comfort Heating and Air is going to be teaching us how it's done, so it should be a really good way to make some connections. Then Fiesta Days, of course, as you guys know, is upon us. Don't forget, while everyone is out enjoying the festivities, that sidewalk sales will be going on for the duration of that week, starting on Friday. Actually, I saw a couple of displays out already, so make sure you stop by those. Check them out. Last year, Fellows was doing tinsel and feather locks in people's hair as they were going by. My sister's closet, I always stock up there during the Fiesta Days sidewalk sales. So make sure you keep that on top of mind. I'll be missing some of the fun as I've been requested to speak at the Rural Utah Chamber Coalition Conference over the weekend in Bear Lake. So I'll be going up there teaching some of the little chambers in rural areas how we've done some of the things that we have done in our chamber, particularly in reference to sponsorships and community events. So teaching them how we've been able to do that. So thanks to those of you that have helped us get to where we are over the years. Ribbon cuttings have slowed down a little bit in the height of this heat, but our next one is scheduled for Farm Bureau Financial Services. The offices of Canyon Lands will be on August 22nd at noon. If any of you can join us on that day, we would love it. And that's what we've got going on at the Chamber. Thanks, you guys.
Kathleen.
Thank you, Kathleen, and thank you for representing our Chamber of Commerce so well. So appreciate it. The only other thing I have, Mayor, is I was able to attend the flag retirement ceremony last night. Some of us were there, and it was amazing as usual. And I want to thank the Miss Spanish Fork and Little Miss Royalties for being there and for handing out these little pins. I'm wearing one of the flag. I think all of us should have received one. If you'd like one, let me know. But anyway, just fun to all be together and to, as we kind of kick off Fiesta Days, be a part of that.
Thank you, Councilman Took. Before we go to Councilman Marshall's comments, Kathleen, I don't think we've had an opportunity to highlight this or embarrass you in front of people right now, but she was in a magazine not too long ago. I think just the edition now. Is it the current edition or the last edition?
Yeah, the summer issue of Business Q magazine.
Okay.
One of our 40 under 40.
Yes.
So 40 individuals that are movers and shakers in the valley are highlighted and featured and just thanked for representing so many great businesses, great entrepreneurs. Just thanks for being so fabulous in our community and representing Spanish Fork so well.
It was a really fun opportunity to get to do that.
It was awesome.
No, they just gave us all they handed out some cute little things that they the cover looks great.
We're proud of you. Proud of you. Thanks for being part of the community and being recognized in a county-wide thing like that. It was very cool. So proud of your association with us. Councilman Marshall.
I've got some time.
Yes, you got time.
Sweet.
Fill it up.
No, I don't have a ton, but just a few. I got a chance to attend my first Veterans Council meeting just last week. That was pretty fun. Something they passed for the first time, which I thought was pretty cool. Currently, the names on the memorial up in the cemetery. Did you really put me on a clock?
If we could finish it.
Wow. I will talk slower.
Why didn't you do that last week? I mean, seriously.
I mean, if I was getting a shake, maybe. But so up on the memorial in the cemetery, they include all the branches of the armed forces except National Guard. You'd have to be on that, to get your name on that wall if you had passed away, you'd have to actually have served in a war to make that happen. This last council meeting, they changed their policy to include anyone that wore a uniform. If they pass away and they're buried in our cemetery, they'll put their name on the wall. So that was pretty cool. And then one of the questions that they have is, what do they do with those that are buried there that aren't on the wall? Do they go back and try to find those service members that aren't memorialized on the wall? So they're looking into that and looking into the cost of that. So if anyone out there is interested in helping them discover who that might be, who those names might be, and contributing some funds to make that happen, they're always looking for funds. Great bunch of people. They're trending on the older side, that group of folks, and I asked if they had plans to become younger in their council, and they said, if you can figure out a way, please do, because they are always looking for younger folks to help them out. But they're giving their time, and they're a bunch of great people that really, really do care for veterans. It was fun to watch. I was glad I was able to make it, and disappointed that I hadn't made it before, but I'll make sure I make their meetings more often. And then Saturday, we all attended the Pyro Musical. Mike and Angie Clayson did a tremendous job. It was a great time. All the way home, my kids are like, were we in the fireworks? Like, were we part of them? It felt, you could feel them to your bones. It was a great job. Mike and Angie did a phenomenal job once again. There are of course, some negative comments on Facebook I've heard. I have not read them because I just won't. But you should be ashamed. Like, it was a fun time. Go ahead and go enjoy yourself.
And it was free.
It was $0. So come, have fun, enjoy, sit in traffic for 25, 30 minutes on the way out, and talk to your family. It's not that big a deal. But nice job, Mike and Angie. Do it again every year. We appreciate your effort. And citizens come out and enjoy that kind of stuff. And I'm looking forward to the next few days. I was driving back from work with my daughter today, and we're picking up my oldest is coming in on Friday. I'm like, she comes on Friday. We get to go to the rodeo, and my daughter's like, already? Sweet. I'm like, calm down. She gets to wear a cowboy hat. She's all pumped about it. It's a fun time. It's a good time to be part of Spanish Fork. So Stace, thanks for everything you do there. That's it.
I don't even know if you used 3 minutes. You took it down, but that was good.
I was going to get done.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I love that it's brought up. The Fiesta Days is already underway. I've got a little video here that we can show that should excite everybody about Fiesta Days and get us even more ready to go, as if the flag retirement and the fireworks didn't get us. Here's the most patriotic of the council. You can see here is Councilman Cardin. He loves the flag. The flag loves him.
Right.
You can see here it just envelops him, gives him a hug, and he can't get away from it.
That was so funny. I was sitting next to him like, is he going to move? Is he going to move? Nope.
I had no idea that this even existed until this morning, and it was shown to me, and I said, please send that to me. I've got to play that at council.
Emily Herman sent me one of, does a doozy.
The flag hugging you. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. Thank you, everyone that came out to that. Again, it's one of those things that we just got done with the 4th of July and our nation's holiday and how patriotic we are. But I just love the timing of how it feeds right into Pioneer Day for the state and Fiesta Days for Spanish Fork, and just keep that patriotic theme moving along. Appreciate Keir Scobes Councilman Scobes, once a councilman, always a councilman, for lining up our chaplain and that gave us a spiritual thought, and our speaker as well. Davis, I think was the last name, right? Brigadier General Davis, that gave a great speech. So appreciate Pete Hansen and Travis and everybody from SFCN getting the footage of that night, and everybody coming out. Councilman Argyle sent us a picture afterwards of his angle on this and catching that rainbow in the background. The night truly just felt like another kickoff to a great time that we're going to have with everyone. And so we appreciate the National Guard, the artillery folks, and everybody coming to this event and making it meaningful for kids and parents alike. It's funny, you see this happen every year, and then when people see the photos, they're like, oh, I didn't know, or I forgot. And it's like, you under a rock? This is one of the coolest parts of our tradition. So thank you. Councilman brought up the royalty already, but they helped us out a lot. I think that was a nice touch. That's the first time I seen them taking out flags to be retired, and I'll bet their moms or helpers were like, nice, now your dress smells like campfire smoke.
Dry cleaning, Bill.
Yeah, but they got them dry cleaned, and they're ready to go the rest of the week. Again, can't say enough about their volunteerism too. The Youth City Council that was there to help so much, but the royalty that really did a great job in being there and saying hi to all the little girls that like to come up to them too. Councilman Marshall bringing up the pyro musical. I guess when I thought about this and what to say, citizens should know the pyro musical is one of those events that if you think you can't affect change, or you think you're, I don't know, can I be involved or whatever, the pyro musical is literally one of those things that, 10 years ago didn't exist, Dale? Has it been about that long? It happened just for a neighborhood kind of getting together and putting some fireworks to music. And I remember Amber and I on the Fiesta Days committee coming back from being invited to that little neighborhood thing and saying, hey, this was kind of cool. And Dale and Karen and Bronco kind of saying, now what was it? Because we need to make sure it's safe too, which is always their role as well. But boy, those residents, that was put on by residents, and now it's just grown to one of those things where thousands and thousands of our residents and people from out of town come to kick off Fiesta Days. And so what a fun night, great entertainment, great music, and just seeing all of our friends and family there. Again, it should be a reminder to residents, if you want to get involved and you have a good idea, bring it to the city. That's where these great ideas come from, and that's how a lot of Fiesta Days is built on itself. We didn't always have a flag retirement ceremony either. These ideas have just built on themselves and been put into practice and just made it the best celebration ever. So thank you, Dale. I know that's hard work, and the Fiesta Days committee too, seeing them pick up trash. Pretty good year if I'm thinking. I think drilling at home that everybody pick up what you brought worked pretty well this year, Dale. It seemed to be pretty clean, didn't it? Yeah. Good. So thanks for being responsible and cleaning up after yourselves and a great, safe, and fun start to Fiesta Days. I think the nature of I guess a patriotic message that I've thought about over the recent events that have happened, and I know that's these are things in our country that we're dealing with. But the night of the pyro musical sure felt like something of an opportunity for our country to come together. Of obviously a former president and a presidential candidate having that targeting happen. It sure seems like an opportunity that we can just all be better. I was thinking earlier that day, and the statement that came to my mind was the fallacy of finality. And I'm not sure why that came to my mind so much, but that was before I heard about any incident of what had happened or anything. But I think in our politics these days, we like to get so polar and think that our view of what we have has got to be the final view. And there's no, there's no moving off this or moving off that. And again, I'm of the opinion we should debate policy. We should try to come up with the best solutions in a lot of different things, and the public square is the place to do that for sure. And sometimes those can be passionate. So I'm not asking anybody to not be less passionate, but what I'm asking is we can be the example. I think we can be the example that I sat in on some interviews today for positions, and to hear some people say, this is what I learned, and it just impresses on my mind, when do we stop learning? Because we think we're 40s or 50s or 60s that, okay, we got to figure it out, we're done learning. New information is what keeps us thriving as humans. And by the way, that final thing that you think you have, that final view that you could never be convinced otherwise, you didn't have that view. At one point, you had to be taught that view as well. And so the fallacy of finality, let's just keep that in our mind as I'm certainly one that I think the rhetoric needs to be toned down. I think we've had a current president give a speech that maybe tried to hit a mark of toning it down, and we've got a candidate that's going to give a speech of trying to tone it down. I hope that's the case. What if a politician was to say that, hey, I don't have all the answers, and guess what? I think I'm the best person for the job. I think we could put policies in place that would have the nation succeed. But if I'm not elected, the country is stronger than one president, than one administration. And we should know that as a people. I know Spanish Fork people know that. The country doesn't rest on one election, one way or the other. We can still be successful. And certainly the idea of America is larger than any one party and any one president. And so let's be the example here in Spanish Fork, even if we might not get those examples elsewhere. And let's keep our rhetoric, our disagreements, to a better, higher level of respecting people, respecting each other, because we can maintain that feeling here. So that has nothing to do with Fiesta Days, except that I think we're in a period of time where we can all be better that way. Okay, any other council comments? Did that spark any interest to you guys? Would you guys like to get up on your soapbox? Because I just got off one. Shane, no?
I'm good. I agree with you. It's time. It's time to back it down. The governor has been saying let's disagree better for the last 6-8 months, and it's true. Don't stop disagreeing. Just do it better. Yeah. Your point's well taken. It's just, you can never stop learning. I thought I knew pretty much everything before I got on the city council. I learned that I know very little. So yeah, that's part of being.
That was a great experience for all of us to see Shane humble himself.
This is the one time. There's not enough people to hear tonight, so
hopefully people are listening out there.
Yeah, they're not.
It's recorded.
It is going to live in infamy, I'm sure.
Oh,
but
it'll be the highlight for the week, Nick.
it's time. It's time to talk about the country and what it means, and not about a person or political side. And yeah, this is a great experiment that's almost 200 years old now, or over 200 years old, and preserve it.
Yeah. And remember the fact side of it. I shared with Nick, and he doesn't need to bring it up if he doesn't have it. But I'm more in the economic space of what I do every day, and I'm telling you what. When you come in with the recency bias of what you feel like is correct, and this is what happened for me or my money or whatever it was, I can tell you again, the American worker, the American economy, the American idea and ideals are bigger than any other president, than any donkey or any elephant. Every single presidency has at least 3 things happen during a presidency, and I can get this to you later if you'd like it. But three things at least over a 4, 5, 8 year period that the news media would have you think we might not wake up tomorrow, and have a country. And guess what? Those bad things happen. We get through them. We get through them because of who we are, of what we stand for. The Constitution, yes, the Constitution that's been amended lots of times. Why? Because it's not the final. It's not the final document. It's amended from time to time, and our founders thought that. So I just think we can be that example in Spanish Fork. We're already that way, and so just remember, we will be a better country from whatever happens to us. But being better is something we can be the example for. So thank you, Nick, for finding that. With that, more information in council comments. We're going to add something. Oh, wow. And hey, why not one? I mean, if this doesn't say America or sidewalk sales or something. Or what?
Toning it down, you know?
I was toning it down. And then I got the Elon Musk fire-breathing gun yeah, thank you, Nick, for throwing that one up.
So what is this for?
Well, I got my hair cut there today, and then I walked out, and Jordan, my barber, said, look at this new flamethrower gun we got. And I said,
of course Jordan would have it.
That's pretty cool. And so he said, you want to try it? And I said, where's the chief? And
you just said none of those things. You're like, yep.
Yeah, I did. And I said, look, should we go out back? And they said, no, out front's cool. And so I said, let's stand away from the tree. We don't want Bill Bushman mad about that. And they snapped a couple of pictures when I started it. So.
Shop local isn't your message here?
This is shop local. Yes, if you want to put that out to the chamber, shop local. Shop local.
Get a haircut, get a flamethrower.
Now, this could say a lot of different things, Kathleen.
I am
Main Street
really
is
curious
Main
how the
Street is
conversation
fire,
happened prior
as
to
the
this.
kids would say. The kids say, as the kids say that. Yeah. Okay. There you go, Shane. I think we should leave that up for the rest of the meeting.
The stance, the look.
I know, the look.
Yeah, that was the first take, too. I mean, I didn't have to take it.
I'm sure that it was.
Is it photoshopped?
It's not photoshopped. No. Yeah, hash filter.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
What's the POV on this?
What is that?
Point of view.
What's the point of view? Like, you got to, as if.
I don't know. Yeah. It's pretty
As
cool.
if?
We got a good Main Street businesses, like Kathleen said, shop local. But when does that start? This Friday. So up and down Main Street, there will not be flamethrowers on Main Street that day. But visit all these shops. They are so great to give back to the community. We've already set up multiple times, but especially with welcoming family and friends and rodeo participants from all over the country this week. Visit downtown Main Street and all over Spanish Fork. Because there's great businesses doing great things, and it's going to be a fun time. So we'll see you on Main Street. In this spirit of kind of, I think, just talking more about stuff instead of talking past people and each other, maybe just getting updates periodically. We've added staff reports to the agenda here, so you can see after council comments. We've got some staff reports. We've got a fantastic city staff that just works their tails off all the time here in Spanish Fork. And so we've added this agenda item that we'll pass over to City Manager Seth Perrins after we're done with council comments every council meeting, and be able to give us some pertinent updates on some things that are maybe moving in Spanish Fork. Discuss those if we want. It's not on the agenda for official decisions, right?
Correct.
But it's informational purposes.
Yep, I think this is going to be great, and this can be moldable and pliable. So if you have a long night and you have public hearings or whatnot, you can move this to the later part of the agendas. But we'll have, I think, three things just to touch on. Chris will touch on a policy that we're hearing about from Rocky Mountain Power and Fire and Power Transmission Line. Dave's going to talk some follow-up from last week's discussion, or last council meeting's discussion on the general plan. Before we do that, though, we're going to, I'll just let you know, we bought some through a handful of us serve on boards and commissions similar to you, and so we can also report on what maybe decisions those groups are making. For example, I sit as the city's representative on our risk management board of directors, IRMA, And just recently, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we had an opportunity to buy some additional cyber insurance. Now, that is probably the most glitzy thing I think we could ever talk about, cyber insurance. Being able to acquire some additional coverage. It's really not that big of a deal, but it's actually a huge deal in this world and economy. Cyber insurance has been going through the roof, and it seems governments are often targets of major hacks. And it's good to know we have $3 million of coverage if we have an incident. That comes with the buying power from IRMA, that agency that we belong to, and it cost us relatively little for that coverage, again, because of that buying power. So we just did that. Chris, with that, you want to touch on Rocky Mountain Power's transmission policy? You don't need to come up to there unless you want to.
So Spanish Fork's a member of an organization with several cities where we have our own power generation, and that's how we buy our power. But we rely on Rocky Mountain Power or Pacificor to deliver that power to our city area quite often. So this is an issue. Pacificor was recently sued for the California fires. The way I understand it is as a fire came through with their transmission lines, it caused problems with the power lines, which sparked all the way down the lines and started other fires. And so because of that lawsuit, they've adopted some policies that when a fire gets close to power lines in general, they will shut those power lines off. That would have a significant impact to our city and other areas if it was, the transmission lines that feed our city. They're projecting that could be for a couple of days while the fire subsides. And so we're hearing some of this. We just kind of want to get the word out, be prepared for a power outage. And one of the things that we've been doing is trying to work with the legislature to say, hey, is there some way we can insulate Rocky Mountain Power from this type of a lawsuit so that we don't have long power outages if things are safe, if the fire is not likely to cause a problem. And so we want to make sure it's reasonable, and so we're working on that as well.
This is, if they execute the plan as we're kind of hearing, I don't think we can understate the transmission that comes from areas where there are power lines and potential for fires. It could cause us to be out of power for days. We're not talking hours. It was a tragedy on a Friday a couple of weeks ago when we were out of power for a couple of hours. But this is a big deal, and not something that I think any of us, Chris, Jake, Tyre, and I, as we've been talking about it, we're not excited about it. We've engaged some of our local legislators, and I think there's room for us to have more conversations about that with the legislators. This is not a Spanish Fork issue. This is a regional and statewide issue. But I think there may be opportunities for us to engage with our legislators, who then have abilities to interact with, of course, Rocky Mountain Power's legislative folks too, and have a better conversation. I think this starts on the operational level, but really the policy is going to be affected and perhaps improved on the upper levels of things. So this is their website that they give you, and if you scroll down just a little bit for me, Nick. Keep going. Keep going, no whammy, stop. Public safety power, shut off. Go in the blue. Yeah. Nope, I lied. The blue at the bottom. Find out more. My bad. Scroll down just a little bit more. This is their map. If you zoom into Spanish Fork, I didn't really believe Chris when he said they've told us that we're in the orange, which I think the legend says, which is a warning or a watch, one of the two, a warning. So this is something that they're saying, there must be something out in
in the area of lines that feed us where they're actively watching something. So we'll engage with some of our legislators. Mayor will probably involve you and perhaps some of the council members as well in those conversations, because
And maybe
we don't like this.
re-emphasize that to residents, because some residents say, well, I don't have Rocky Mountain Power.
Correct.
They're not my provider. Spanish Fork City's my provider through UMPA.
Correct.
Right? But this is the electrical grid that's connected. So the only way that power comes to that electrical grid that you buy power from your city is the Rocky Mountain Power large lines.
Yeah,
So it's not like we have an option.
They have the responsibility of providing that service throughout the state, and so if we need a major transmission line, 10 times out of 10 it's on a Rocky Mountain Power line, and so we as a city are a customer. In fact, when they talk about outages, that Tuesday or that Friday night outage, they talked about how there were, I'm going to make up the number, 30,000 customers that were out. We were one of those. So of those 30,000, we were just one, although it was 14,000 homes and businesses that were out of power. But in their numbers, it was just one, because Spanish Fork Municipal Power, that's one customer for them. So we, as an entity, we are a customer through their distribution. This is a big deal. This is not a great thing. So hopefully nothing happens. But if it does, this is where it's coming from, and we'll keep working on it on the legislative end.
Would we have any kind of heads up prior to them killing the power or turning off the power?
What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, this is something that happens kind of gradually as a fire approaches the line. So I imagine we'd have some gradual heads up depending on where the fire starts, I guess. But.
And again, Spanish Fork is, we pride ourselves on trying to be those at emergency preparedness, and especially with our block captains and the things that you've seen, trainings and things like that, and places that if people have urgent needs that they can gather and different things like that. So we're not saying we're in that mode yet, but we're trying to be prepared. But along with being optimists, we're realists too. So let's be real about our own emergency preparedness and be ready to be able to live without power for a couple of days if you had to. Yeah. And so that's on each of us to work up to that level of comfortability too.
That doesn't mean go and put solar panels on your house, because they're still part of the grid, right?
Go ahead, Chris. Yeah.
Yeah, so most all solar panel systems rely on the city power to provide power at night. And so if the city power's off, you still don't have power. So.
Batteries
And
lots of
some
batteries,
portable solar, generators. Yeah, there's a place on Main Street that does
hamsters and wheels.
Hamsters and wheels. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep, Dave.
Yes, thank you. As Seth mentioned, following up from last week, I've got a couple of different things that I want to cover as a follow-up, and then talk about anything that the council wants to discuss relative to the general plan / station area plan project. I really appreciated the conversation that we had 2 weeks ago. It was great feedback that we received that night. Appreciated the time the council spent then. I appreciate the time that people spent since then giving us comments on a draft survey. We've delivered an updated draft to the council, along with a memo where we tried to memorialize the different comments that we received. Gave us kind of a yardstick to use as we went through the updated draft. Some of the comments we received were easier to put into play than others. Councilman Cardin, some of yours were a little bit tricky by way of wanting to make the survey as digestible as it could be, not wanting to give somebody a reason to maybe check out early and that type of a thing. So making it more succinct, while also balancing that with wanting to provide enough information that we were getting fairly educated responses. So took our best shot at that. I really appreciate Design Workshop taking the lead on changes. What you have tonight is the result of our efforts there. Maybe it would be good to dive in with that to start with. I don't know if you've had a chance. I know that we've given you a fairly short fuse to review the updated draft. Incidentally, we don't plan on publishing it until after Fiesta Days. So we have time beyond tonight as well to make additional changes and tweaks. It may be worth keeping in mind that the version that you have is kind of a shell of what ultimately will be out there for the public to consume. The survey will be administered in Qualtrics. There will be additional visuals and maps and different things like that, and certainly some of the comments that we got that reinforced the idea that that visual aspect is an important part of making it as usable for our different stakeholders in the community to participate in. But I don't know if this is a good time maybe to talk about where we're at and where you'd like to see us go.
I had 2 comments for possible changes. Is now okay? Or do you want me to just email them, or what are your
I'm
thoughts?
here at your disposal, so however you want to.
I think this is a place to discuss it if you have
No,
some
just 2 quick
recommendations.
things. In the introduction text, it says, "Thank you for taking the survey." Then there are a couple sentences, and then it says, "Please take this 5-minute survey." Could those be combined into one sentence instead of being redundant, and maybe just start off by, "Thank you for taking this 5-minute survey"? And then my other suggestion or comment was on number 8 with the North Gateway. It says UDOT is currently analyzing the location for a new highway interchange at I-15 and 2700 North. I don't think they're currently analyzing that.
UDOT is currently constructing
that,
a
yeah.
new.
So those were my 2 suggestions.
If you back up just a few paragraphs on the bottom of that second page, there's just a spelling error where it says currently Spanish Fork dues. It's supposed to be does.
Not like dues.
Dues works.
Oh, you
here.
didn't graduate from Spanish Fork High? We did, and that's how we dues taught.
Oh, that's how you guys talk. Oh, got it.
Yep,
Got it.
that's how
Okay,
we do
okay.
it.
Jesse, which section's that in?
Overall growth strategy questions.
Last sentence on that second page.
Dave, can you discuss again who the survey will be going out to?
Yeah, to anyone who would like to take it. In fact, one of the questions kind of drills into, are you a landowner, are you a resident, both, business owner? I think there are 6 or 7, 7 or 8 different options that people can choose from. And that is the intended audience, anybody that feels they have enough of a stake in Spanish Fork to want to take the time to provide their thoughts.
And the way individuals will find out that there's a survey is by how are we spreading the word that a survey is available?
I think we're using every tool at our disposal. The newsletter, we will probably do some things via social media. We will use our website. I will probably talk briefly in the council meeting in August about this being an opportunity that we want people to take advantage of. If anybody has any other suggestions, please let us know.
The last time we when we sent out the first one, I think we sent an Everbridge to every resident. We got a little bit of feedback of, hey, don't do this to me. I don't want this kind of spam. So I think right now we've planned on not sending this out that way. If you guys want us to, we can do that tool, but that kind of is a bazooka that sends it out. But other than using that method, I think we'd use a lot of the same ones that we did before, which were really successful in getting it out.
Everbridge can target areas, though, too, geographically? Like
It
if you wanted
can.
to make sure.
It can. If we felt like there was an area underrepresented, for example, we could drill in.
But does Everbridge only go to residents within the city?
Correct. Well, it goes whatever data set we choose, which typically is only residents, unless there's somebody that's opted in some other, from some other forum.
But do you know some of what we're discussing is outside of the city? So how do we make sure those landowners are also made aware or able to take it?
Yeah, the same. So far, we don't have any really self-limiting program, right? Social media is available to everybody.
Yeah.
The newsletters to utility customers, which most live in the city, some don't. Landowners, may have a bill that comes to their house because of how they set it up. So that goes to wherever the utility account is.
But you could be a non-resident of the city and opt into the Everbridge system where you get notified.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. And in this system, there's a social media certainly gets it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said when you sent the first river bridge out, there were several people saying, leave me alone? Like a couple or like dozens?
Probably dozens.
Really? I think it's frustrating to hear that in the sense that this is one of the biggest things we do as a council and we're really wanting input. So it worries me to not send that out. Like, we want every single resident to be very aware that we're doing this.
We can use that tool and just tell them thank you for the response.
I don't know what you guys think, but
I think so. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just think it's a balance tool too, because sometimes those. We've used that in some pretty stark emergencies. Now this is we want your input,
right?
But we have to have. Here's the balance of man, I'm inviting and we want to hear from you and we want to hear from you, and it's just like Chris was telling us in work session. Here's your area that's going to change a traffic pattern and a door hanger on every door. Here's the meeting that night. Nobody shows up.
Right. I know.
So it's the begging of, and I don't want to. I guess I don't want. I want everybody's input that will responsibly reply to stuff, but that system does seem like it's, hey, here's a, we've used it for things like school,
right.
Shooting hoaxes. We've used it for flooding. We've used it for
more emergency things.
Emergency things, rather than here's a survey. Yeah. The survey's not an emergency, but you should take it if you want to shape. How many people opted in?
Future.
Yeah, shape the future of your city. So.
Yeah.
And one of those things, like Mayor, you were just talking about, and a little bit with what Stacy's talking about, is question 18: are there other things that should be considered in the station area plan, general plan, or both? It's a very open-ended question to give people the opportunity to give as much input as they want, and I think that's an important part of this survey, because there's been a little bit of that voice of, well, you guys are telling us what you want to know, right? You're very focused on certain areas, but this is a very open-ended question to put it out there. What do you want? Because we are going to read those comments, and we are going to look at those, and so that's important.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, can you put this survey in context of timing? I think we're talking about it like it's the opportunity for people to engage. It shouldn't be the last opportunity for people to engage. It's just a point in time. We've done some work. We sent a survey out. We did some work. We have some work to communicate to the public, and we want their feedback on that work. There will be more opportunities at some point for them to comment on further work done, correct?
Exactly, yeah. You're giving me maybe a good segue to start into the other thing I wanted to discuss. This is not the first effort that's been made to solicit people's thoughts and ideas on what the city's future land use kind of makeup should look like. This project was really started at the end of last year. We got into some public engagement in January. Really, we're into that heavily in February, 6 or 7 months ago. This will be the second survey that's been provided to such a broad audience, is what we're trying to hit, again, this second round. Other efforts have been made to solicit public input for the same purpose, and I think that's been pretty successful. So a big part of what we're looking for with this particular survey is to vet some of the things that we've heard, some of the things that we've heard consistently. So there are questions with this survey that we'll talk about, for example, different ways that the community could grow where it's not as open-ended as it was before, talking about growth scenarios and maybe starting to get into some things that are a little bit more specific about what growth in certain areas should look like. That's partly to test what we heard before, to try to validate that and to make sure things are moving in the right direction, and also to get more precise input. To your point, Shane, with this input collected, then the different draft work that exists now gets further refined before, really ultimately we're hoping that we enter into kind of a different phase of public engagement where there literally may be a draft out there
Right.
for people to comment on probably in some fairly informal ways, and also ultimately to comment in a very formal, legally required way, public hearings and different things like that. And there are different ways that on that informal side, with the next step, that things can be handled, and we anticipate, kind of like we've done tonight, getting the council's input on exactly how you want us to handle those when we've gone from step 1 to step 2, which is where we're at now, and then on to step 3, which is intended to be kind of where we're at, ready to wrap things up and memorialize things and to put things into play. Does that help by way of
I think
context?
I'm sort of a visual person. I think Jesse and I were talking a little about this the other day. He made some really good comments about if I don't know what we're talking about with these words, it's really difficult to understand the context. So a starting page or whatever, we've done these steps. Here's where we're at. This is the kind of feedback we're looking for. Here are opportunities in the future. But what are we trying to accomplish with this, public outreach and feedback? I think calling it a survey sort of doesn't do it justice. It is we were looking for comments, concerns, opinions about work that we have accomplished. So give us some feedback. We call it survey because that's the nomenclature, but it doesn't. In my head, a survey is someone calls me up and says, "Do you like 1, 2, or 3?" And I say 4, and we move on. Right? This is different. We're trying to engage with the public, trying to get some good feedback, and I think to know where this fits in the context of it all would be very, very helpful for the public.
That's been the topic of quite a bit of discussion that we've had with the design workshop team. And I mentioned this before, and it's not to suggest that we're looking at all to limit the quantity of input that we get, but we're really hoping to be able to provide information from the work that's already been done to help people understand why we're asking the questions that are being asked now, what they might mean, as we move on to the final stages of the document. And to get people there, honestly, it's probably going to take, Stacy, more than 5 minutes. The survey itself, I think it's intended that you can digest 18 questions, with some methodical, deliberate thought in 5 minutes. But also, we're hoping that people will take some time to review information that's provided. I hate to use the jargon, but the story map is the particular platform that's being used to maybe get people up to speed, to your point, Shane, on what's happened and how things have come to be.
To me, that's the outreach. To me, it's here's the story map, here's the work we've done. Look through it, and oh, by the way, can you answer some of these questions on your thoughts about the story map? Not, hey, take this survey and tell me again what you think, right? We asked these questions 6 months ago, and now tell me them again. That's not what we want. Here's what we've done. Give us some feedback on what we've done.
And I guess my disclaimer for that out to the citizens is here is the work that's been done. So
if it sucks, tell us.
Well, I know, but sometimes we get accused of, because we're putting that in the survey out there, well, you made the decision. I guess I'm just going to tell you that
perfect. And that's exactly my point, is the timeline of where we're at, so that people can see this. This is not a decision making.
Yeah.
This is one point in time. Decisions are this fall. You'll see more work. Right. We've done something. What do you think?
I like what Dave said and said, are we on the right track?
Yeah.
This is like we're checking in with you. This is what we believe we heard. Did we hear correctly? Are we moving in the right direction?
Correct.
Validation.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big part of what we're looking for here. And Shane, I have to mention, the intent is to have the story map with a link at the end of it to the survey. I
like that. I like the reach out is, here's the story map. Go look at it. Oh, by the way, take a survey on what you read. Not, here's a survey, go fill it out. I know it sounds a little bit, I don't know, hokey, but
it's just how people will fill it out.
But it's going to give the context, right?
Yeah, the context really matters in this case.
And that's where I've struggled the most, and that's where Dave and I talked a lot, right? Is the context is the important part, because if not, people are just going to open the survey and go, I don't know what you're talking about, and they're going to exit it.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't want that. Yep.
Thanks for hashing this through with us again.
I really appreciate this, and boy, the comments that you provided tonight, particularly one of them is embarrassing. Dues.
It's not dues, it's dos.
Dos.
Spanish for dos.
Thank you.
Yep, you got it.
The sad part is there, 5 other of us up here didn't read
Yeah,
it at all.
but Jesse caught
Didn't
it.
catch it. I didn't.
Is that
catch
American
it.
Fork
Smart
Education, I
kid.
guess?
The smart kid is coming with all the grammar and stuff.
I really want to take another minute to talk about part of where we're at today, particularly where things, I think, they do become a visual representation of comments that we've received. And maybe, Nick, if you can just pull up the memo on the growth scenarios and even just go to the second page. I'm going to try to be brief. But, of course, as we've received just about 4,000 different sets of comments through different channels that we've put into play, we've heard just about everything that you could imagine somebody would say about what they expect and want to see Spanish Fork become. And that being said, also, we have seen some very strong trends. I don't think they're necessarily a surprise. As we've asked through, again, previous work, where people want to see growth, first of all, it's been on the north end of Spanish Fork, where right now there really aren't many existing neighbors. An area that would impact existing residents of the community in a very small way. We've heard people say that they're comfortable with growth around where we are thinking UTA ultimately wants to put a commuter rail stop. And just to mention something about that, the locations that we're talking about there may be one of 2 different places where they think a platform for a stop could work. Going back 10 plus years to, you can pick the study that was done. There are 3 or 4 different ones that have been done by UTA and consultants. They have told us for more than a decade approximately where that stop will be. We have not had influence of Spanish Fork City over that. There are specific criteria relative to heavy commuter rail. For example, a certain length of straight line track leading into where a stop will be. A certain length of straight line track where a train would exit from commuter rail. Access to other means of transportation, a few things like that. So station area generally being what it is, having been dictated to the city, that's also, though, an area where we've heard pretty consistently that people think it makes sense for the community to continue to grow. And really one of what is now the last greenfield type areas that we have in Spanish Fork. We call it the Salem-Benjamin Interchange, right? We've heard fairly consistently that that is an area where people want to see, or where people believe growth makes sense. It's a better way for me to say it. So we talk about the North Gateway, that's 2700 North, station area, Southwest Gateway, and then also potentially where Spanish Fork Parkway intersects with US Highway 6, where already we see a little bit of a mixture of different housing types, different land uses, different things like that. Not a lot of available open land for development there, but certainly some. And I'm trying to be succinct, but I do think that this image is a good representation, generally speaking, of what we've heard, which is that the community expects to grow. We have heard that people recognize that there is a need for additional housing and that there is a need for more affordable housing. Not to be surprised, for the most part, we're hearing that people would like to see that happen someplace other than their neighborhood. I don't mean that in any kind of derogatory way, but that's just what we've heard. I think that's a very genuine thing for people to have said, and to some extent, this map starts to reflect those general trends and certainly patterns relative to the input and engagement that we've received. So unless you want me to go into any more detail, you have a copy of this memorandum, and this then also does become certainly more and more of a foundation that gets built upon as we move into the next phases. So, any questions about that? Anything worth talking about tonight in terms of this? Pretty significant part of the project. I've found it fascinating over the years that general plan document, you might have 50 pages of text that goes along with a map. It could be 500 pages of text that goes along with a couple of maps. All people care about are the maps. That's people zero in on that, and those become the focus of conversation and discussion, and rightfully so. I think they depict, ultimately a council's expectations for the future probably better than any other kind of image. But that was the other thing I wanted to just take at least a minute tonight to touch on, as these draft growth scenarios are starting to take a certain shape and form.
Dave, what's the future year that, or do we have one that sort of like we're planning for? 2050, 20 forever, full build out. What is the term temporal?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are a couple of different parameters mentioned in the memo that I was just referring to. One of them, and these are numbers that are taken from it's Mountain Land, our Regional Association of Governments. They've suggested that there will be a need for some 6,800 additional housing units in approximately the next 15 years, between now and 2040. So they are using, that is our team, Design Workshop, is using that as kind of a guide, partly with the idea, we don't know if it'll be sooner or later, but at some point in the reasonably foreseeable
when
future.
All that population is here, this is what it looks like. Time is not really a factor.
Exactly. So, for example, as we talk about the growth scenarios, in one of those is just a baseline, right? If we continue to grow according to our current general plan, kind of land use pattern, then X happens. Which in this case, if we were to compare, basically what we're looking at here with the current trend, the difference simply is that there are X hundreds of additional acres of land that get consumed by lower density development, but still those 6,800 homes get fit into that model, and that's the guide.
Okay. I think we've talked about this before, but I think there's, in my opinion, we need to plan for the when, what if. If they all come, how do we want to look? But there's time between now and then, and how we actually grow between now and then, I think, is just as important as what it looks like whenever then is. We haven't talked about that, how to get there yet. Will we talk about that in our general plan?
To some extent, the next survey starts to talk about that, and certainly that's been a part of the conversation, I think, from the beginning. And really, the baseline is intended to be what things get measured against. Certainly, you're under no pressure or compulsion to change from what the general plan currently says. So that's a realistic scenario. And the intent of a project like this, ultimately, is to describe different options that might exist, to put those options to a test through public engagement, getting input, building some amount of consensus, right? Nobody agrees on everything, but you're trending in such a way that there's enough buy-in and support for what the proposal ultimately is, that you as the council and the community end up with a document that's defensible, so that you don't redo this every year. That, that as much as anything, I think, is the intent of all of the public engagement, outreach, surveys, different things like that. It's to get the plan right. And for me, right means that in 10 years, a council is still referring to it and saying, hey, the right work was done back in 2024, and we're sticking to this. And we're not going to reinvent the wheel every year or two, or every time a property owner wants to do something different with their property.
Dave, as we look at growth, the numbers that you just shared, for example, and as the state looks at growth, how much demographic information are we getting or projecting with that growth? Like when we do a survey, for example, that we send out, hey, what's your vision for the growth of Spanish Fork? And you've got that going to a 65-year-old who thinks single-family neighborhoods is all we should have in the community, as compared to maybe a college-aged kid or a early young married couple who think, I don't want a yard to take care of at this point in my life. I'd rather live in a condo or something like that. And is the growth showing that that's more of what we're gaining in our community as compared to the 65-year-olds that are already settled? How much sway or how much importance do demographics play when making decisions like this?
I think that's up to you. I don't believe we've cross-referenced responses with, demographic characteristics that we're collecting with the surveys. We certainly did with the first survey. Second's the same. That might be interesting to do, to see who is saying, what about future needs and that type of a thing.
Interesting.
I could speculate, but also we're collecting data.
Yeah.
The only way that you can analyze data, really, other than just all of the answers were this way, is to collect that demographic data, and then you can parse out based on those different things to see how certain groups and collections of people think. So that becomes a key point. And I don't know, Nick or Tyler, if you guys want to add anything, but that demographic data in all surveys is really the key to helping you to analyze how people see these different questions.
And does the state have any of that historic, because we've been growing now for 5-6 years, quite a bit as a state. What's the demographic information we have from the last 5-6 years as far as who's moving into the state of Utah?
Yeah, census data would get it. The last one was 2020. We got that data in 21. So, we don't have, we have estimates out of the census, but those are just estimates. Our numbers are shrinking in terms of, Utah, our number of kids are getting fewer and fewer.
Yeah.
I have one more question. It sounds like we're really talking about these 4 different areas, and we're not saying anything about the river bottoms. If we adopted something like this, and I realize it's still in flux, but let's say in 2 years we're getting pushback from developers to, let's start developing and encroach down on the river bottoms. Are we looking at that at all, or is the feedback we're getting just leave it alone? Yep. So that's what we can say. Sorry, we're not going to engage in this conversation because our master plan doesn't have anything to do with it.
We need to talk about the river bottoms at some point in time. I think I think we owe it to the council to try to make sure that you have considered that area before something new gets adopted. But the feedback that we've received so far has been very clear about what the community would like to see happen in the river bottoms, and it's status quo.
Okay.
And questions have been asked to where feedback has been given on that.
Okay.
We have designations in our zoning for agriculture. Why can't we, just like we designate a certain area for certain residential density, for certain industrial density, why can't we designate an area for specifically for agriculture? If we've got it available, why couldn't we?
We can. I think it currently is, right?
I think it is.
Yeah. That's what the river bottoms is.
Really, not in our
What's general plan?
Well, no, but that's the general plan.
It
Right?
says if it comes into the city, it's this.
Yeah, and so why not, just like we do with the other zones, why not leave it as that?
Yeah, and I think that's an important point to talk about as we're taking the surveys, as we're coming to the construction of what this version of the general plan is. And again, it's changing about every 10 years or so. It's updated and things like that. I think it's important that we don't forget that. I think it's disingenuous to say that this isn't driven by, yes, the council is elected to be able to draw some maps and plan for the future and everything else, but it'd be disingenuous to say that it's not driven by the property owners that are there too, because that is how that it comes to be. There's colors, there's lines, there's things drawn all over this that people's eyes do go to those maps, and then you say, well, why didn't this happen, or why did this happen? Economics, the economy, and the free country we live in of people to buy and sell land, and that's a huge aspect of this. So I think it's important in here to get these. I like question 5. Choose all that apply. You're a resident, you're a landowner, you're a part-time resident, and then 6, click on the map where you live. It's going to give some good data. If you're taking this survey, you're going to say, hey, well, geez, I'm a landowner, and this is where I live. Boy, that's a pretty good indication of you're going to be involved in the planning of how that develops and what it does. Here's how we see it working with the flow of traffic and utilities and everything else that you rely on in a city. But boy, I think we'd be missing the mark if we're not saying, yep, there's a plan, comes together, this is how it flows, and it's driven a lot by the people that own the land.
Specifically, the timing of that change is driven a lot by the people that own the land.
Yeah, probably that.
Right. I think it's our job. And Kevin, you said zone a couple of times in your statement, but we're not zoning any of this at this point, right? We're above that, right?
We're general planning, which leads to zoning.
Which would
and if
eventually
we've got
lead
a
to
general
zoning, but
plan of a certain type,
absolutely,
then it leads to
I
that
get you.
type.
I get you. I was like, well, we're not going to put zones to this yet. This is just.
But
generally,
in our experience, when have we ever zoned something different than what it's general planned for? Right. The general plan is our template.
Right.
And it doesn't mean it has to be what was general planned. You could always change the zoning to something else, right? But typically, you follow the general plan.
It's grayer in the general plan, and when we zone it, it's far more specific.
Exactly.
Right? So there are several zones that could fit in the general plan under that category. But Mike, I think that's important to talk about. Who makes a decision to change a use? Not us. We say, if you're going to change it, this is the direction it should head. We've analyzed it. You would need a road, you would need X, you need Y, and this is how it would redevelop. We don't make the decision on when, right? But what I think would be important to talk about, not tonight, but at some point in the future, especially with these circles. Well, actually all 4 of them. The timing within these circles, I think, is super important, right? When you look at up in the top or the right, you have Mayor Hallam up there doing his thing, and he wants to do his thing for a very long time. And you have houses coming along, and other property owners are saying, you know what, I don't want to farm anymore. I want to sell this off, and I want to do something different. We need to make sure that Mayor Hallam can continue to do what he wants to do, right? As to the best of our abilities, not guaranteed by any means, but that's what I want to talk about. Is how do we do these things in conjunction with each other, right? So that we don't lose one or the other. I spent some time driving around North PG, maybe South Alpine. There's a couple of grain silos over there that in the middle of very dense residential, there are folks doing agriculture. I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know if it's profitable or what. I don't know, but it can happen. Merritt Hallam is doing the same thing. How do we preserve that? And that's part of our culture, part of our history. How do we make sure that they can continue to do that until the day they say, you know what, I don't want to anymore? Right. And that day, then we say, okay, but you need to look like this. That I'm good with. It's that temporal piece that we really need to analyze a bit because it's important. It's important to our community.
For sure.
So, not tonight by any means, but again,
part of the conversation.
Part of the conversation for sure.
Yeah.
For
So
sure.
so remember that when this survey is live and we remind you to take it, right? Remember that part of it, that this is that planning document, that we have to be that responsible because there are resources of the citizens that are put in that area, in those areas, to feed things that you can't undo. You know, it's millions of dollars to be put in places that start to make connectivity for your whole city. So when that survey comes, let's do what we can to say, okay, here's the bias I have, here's the history I have. Recognize that, take the survey, and do the best that you can. We want the input. So,
thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you all. Like I said, if you happen to come across anything else in maybe the next week or week and a half, let us know. Thank you.
If you could somehow make that not look like bullseyes on your map, it might be a little bit better.
Yeah. Blobs. They look like blobs or something.
We're coming here.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that update. Thanks, Council, for your input on getting that survey as good as possibly can to get out to the residents and give that update on the next round of surveys here. Manager Parents, anything else from the staff report that you wanted to touch on?
Nope. That's it.
I personally love the idea of this kind of conversation at this meeting. I do like the idea that if we have a heavy agenda that we can move it around a lot. That's perfect. Does it make sense to convey to the public what those staff reports may contain?
There will be some, and it's going to be modeled a lot like what you guys do with your council comments. Like they're not usually this robust. This general plan, candidly, I didn't think it would be that long. I'm going to just assume if we're going to do general plan, we're going to put that in the discussion because it's going to be long. Fair?
Okay. That's fair.
But and the idea is that these aren't going to be long. They're going to be succinct, just what Chris did with the Rocky Mountain Power, a 2 or 3 minute kind of report or whatever. If there's a topic that we think is going to be long, we'll put it in the discussion because that's where it belongs, and we can give that kind of heads up.
Okay.
And we'll just do that with general plan, period.
Good luck reading our minds.
Sometimes you'll make
I was about 2 minutes into that one. Yep, we're going to do this.
Sometimes you'll mix in a flamethrower on Main Street. You'll get a picture.
Once in a while.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate those updates. That'll move us to item 7 on the agenda: consent items. A and B, minutes of the last council meeting and the airport runway preservation project contract. Any questions on the consent items? If not, I'd entertain a motion on the consent items.
I move to approve the consent items.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Cardin, seconded by Councilwoman Beck. All in favor say yes.
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 Consent items are approved. We have 2 items under new business tonight. A is Title 13 Wastewater Utility Ordinance. This sounds very Chris Thompson-ish. Where's our wastewater treatment facility director? Bishop duties?
So we've been working on this update for years and waiting for some state corrections to come. We've gotten some, and we're ready to approve this. We feel like it meets all the requirements that they've given us, and to do it. The major change is they've wanted us to raise the maximum fee for violating the ordinance from $1,000 to $10,000, and it's kind of an interesting process. If we violate anything on our permit with our wastewater treatment plant, then the state comes in and they give us fines, and we work on those fines, and a lot of times they just want to help us make it better, and so they will give us some credit towards the fines if we mitigate them. Anyway, they want a similar process for us if an entity violates on their wastewater and have similar type of mitigation measures and fines that they have. So that's the main real change.
Went from 1,000 to 10,000.
Just minor.
It's a jump.
Minor jump.
A day.
Do not violate.
We didn't.
Chris, from your perspective and from the state, from what you know from the state perspective, is there any room to go not from 1 to 10? And again, I think maybe for the council's perspective, the state is really wanting that there is no room for violations. Like, the message is, don't violate your permit. But as you understand it, is there? Can we go from 1 to 2, 1 to 5?
If we tried to change that, it would be corrected, and
they would say no. Put it at 10. That's the number.
That. The other thing is that's the maximum violation. So,
so there are
can evaluate by how egregious the violation is and adjust.
So kind of how we've been dealt with. This is what it could be. This is what it would be. But if you do, this is what it will be. Kind of a thing.
Correct.
Okay.
I think they're concerned. They don't want it to be less money to just violate and pay the fines than to fix it. Because quite often to treat properly, it's really expensive. And so it'd be really easy to say, well, that fine's a lot less than fixing it.
Makes sense. That was really expensive, but it can be pretty harmful to the public. You're talking about wastewater.
We're building a very state-of-the-art plant that treats the water to an incredibly high level, and it is important that we don't have violations. It's very costly to treat violated water that doesn't meet specs to that high of a level of treatment that we've been asked to do by new regulations.
Thank you, Chris. Any other questions for Chris on Title 13 Wastewater Utility Ordinance change? Okay. If not, I'd entertain a motion for item A. Let the left side
I know, what exactly
get
do you
over
want us
tonight.
Just a sec.
I move to approve the Title 13 Wastewater Utility Ordinance.
There we go.
Motion made by Councilman Cardin.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Took. A roll call vote here. Councilman Euler.
Yes.
Councilwoman Beck.
Yes.
Councilman Marshall.
Yes.
Councilman Took.
Yes.
And Councilman Cardin.
Yes.
I was on the wrong agenda.
8A is approved. Yeah, welcome to tonight.
Welcome to council meeting tonight.
Let's go.
It wasn't the right agenda.
Only an hour and a half in. No big deal.
Non-motion agenda.
Mr. Tyler Jacobson talked to us
He
about
looks excited for this one.
42 South, 100 West property.
Did you just wake up?
Me?
Yeah, you
didn't look very lively.
Well,
Been here.
I haven't walked a lot today. I just got thinking about that. So
Are you
after
those
council
steps?
meeting,
Same
I'll
as it was
take a
this
little
morning.
walk. What's that?
It was the same as it was this morning. It doesn't change. Just walk.
So, speaking of walking, if we were to walk outside of this building, just across the street to the west, there's a house located at 42 South 100 West that's adjacent to this block where Library Hall and City Hall sit. About a year ago, the home went up for sale, and we approached the owner and inquired about it. And about a year later, we're at the point where we've got a signed contract from the property owner that's willing to sell it to the city. So I've only shared this presentation with 2 people, I know that it's one of Nick's last council meetings, so I'm guessing that he's taken some liberties and thrown in an additional picture.
Okay.
Thanks, Nick. So so everyone knows where this is at, here's a picture with City Hall, Library Hall, and then the subject property. The idea with this is that if we ever did need to expand, with it being located on the same block as the Senior Center, and like I mentioned before, adjacent to the block with City Hall and Library Hall, that we would be able to use this property for that. For the time being, we would rent this property out. There's another house on the corner there just to the north of this that the city owns and currently rents. Any questions on this?
Questions for Tyler on this property purchase? See from now this being a public part of the process of how much you pay and where it's going, that the city expanding that way for a campus and different needs over there is in the public square now.
Yes, Tyler, just to be clear, as far as the purchase price compared to appraisals and values that the purchase price is coming in,
I'm glad you asked that. Yeah, so the purchase price is the exact same as the appraisal was. So it's $420,000 is the price.
Okay, thank you.
No other questions for Tyler on this? I'd entertain a motion for item B, approving this contract.
I move to approve the contract.
Motion made by Councilman Marshall.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Euler. A roll call here. Councilman Took.
Yes.
Councilman Cardin.
Yes.
Councilman Euler.
Yes.
Councilwoman Beck.
Yes.
And Councilman Marshall.
Yes.
Item 8B is approved. There is no need for a closed meeting tonight, but since Tyler brought it up and made it somewhat public there, Nick Porter his last council meeting as our PIO, and this folds into something I wanted to mention anyway, but Nick, I hope I'm not breaking. Well, maybe this is your employee, Seth. Why don't you tell us what Nick's doing?
You're doing great. He'll accept whatever you say. He'll get mad at me for some things I might say. So I think you just run with it.
Well, the facility that Nick will be over for us, and I know many of the people in the city, and especially those that have been lucky enough to be part of 101, have got to know Nick pretty well. Us as a council have got to know Nick last, 3, has it been 3 years, Nick? 4 years, wow.
4 years.
4 quick, long years. As our PIO, because it's an important role that sometimes it's not the easiest things to be the public information officer about, and sometimes it's funner than others. But I know everybody that we've talked to about Spanish Fork 101 has really enjoyed what we would call your baby of 101, and is now fast growing across the state in other cities that are bringing residents in to learn about all the different departments. So Nick, we thank you for your service to Spanish Fork in that role. Thankfully, we're not losing Nick. He's changing roles inside the city. He has accepted the position as the new director over the Spanish Fork Recreation Center. And so his duties will start there next month, I believe. We just set you up a desk in the dirt. What are we going to do?
Star Ted.
Oh, we're going.
About halftime.
Okay. I will tell you,
Schizophrenic.
I don't know if I stepped in your future office down there that's under construction or not. I stepped a lot of the area down there, but Spanish Fork residents, you can't. We're going to try to get some. I talked to Dale today. We're going to try to get some better footage of it so you can see those updates and stuff. But my goodness, it's a construction scene, so there's a lot of moving parts of it, and dangerous to certainly not be there without proper apparel and hard hat and people walking you. But it's beautiful. It's going to be so awesome for all of our city and surrounding cities as well. And Nick will be taking care of that for us and all the residents. So, Seth, you got something to say about that?
Yeah, let me just add, Nick's one of our stars. We've got a lot of great employees here, and Nick's certainly one of those. And when we opened up the position, he applied, was interested in it, and we measured him against a bunch of other candidates that we were able to interview, and not surprising, he really rose to the top. He's got excellent background that will allow for him to be really successful in terms of business, as well as the marketing that he's done for the city in this position that he's had. So everything that he's done in this role has given us just so much confidence in him, and we're excited. We're super excited for him to have that opportunity. And he'll be successful. He'll help make the rec center everything that we all want it to be, and so it'll be fun to have him in that role. We'll miss him in the roles that we've had him in, but we're excited to give him the opportunity for something more, something different, and watch that success. So we won't see him here, but we'll see him down there. And that position, interestingly enough, even though it's not open, there's a lot of work to do. And we modeled this after actually what Intermountain Healthcare did with the hospital as they were building that. They brought on their team. If you recall, Francis and Megan were working. They were assigned and ready, going on that building a year or so in advance of it opening, which helped them to make decisions along the way that they could make. And so we're following that example, and he'll help us carry the project home in the construction, and then probably in the spring, or he's working on kind of the staffing plan, but we'll start hiring people for that, before it's open, and so they can get all of the policies and different things in place. Start hiring lifeguards. I think the thing that scares Nick the most is hiring lifeguards, because it's a tough position to fill. So a lot of work to do between now and opening, whenever that is. What are we saying right now? Fall of 25.
Fall of 25.
Speed that up.
Yeah, early fall.
Early fall.
Early fall.
Late summer.
Whatever that is.
Midsummer.
24th of a year from now.
Yeah. Well, that would be awesome.
Let's go.
Well, Nick, maybe the question that I know your thing you'll miss the most is us sending you pictures at the last second for council comments.
That's one of them, yeah.
Yes, that's what you'll miss the most. What are you most excited about as your new endeavor there at the Recreation Center?
Well, some of the highlights of the last 4 years are just getting people together. Spanish Fork University has been bringing people together to learn and do something new, and I think that'll be the same at the Rec Center, bringing people together to better themselves and one another, and that'll be a lot of fun to see.
So watch out, 101 participants. He's got your name and number. He might need lifeguards. He might need.
That's right.
And you have a list of 50 people you could call.
Yeah.
50?
100?
It's 100.
And they all said they wanted to volunteer for the
They did.
city.
Exactly.
They did.
There's a couple
There's
in
three
here
in the
right-
room.
I know,
Yeah.
there's three right here.
Sawyer, come on. All right. We don't want that.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate
you,
your
Nick.
your
Congratulations,
help.
Nick.
Yeah, congrats. It's going to be awesome. We'll have you back here to give us updates of the timeline of the Recreation Center being sped up and being completed earlier, and then the operations of it as well. So we look forward to that. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. That concludes City Council for tonight, and we'll see you around Fiesta Days, around the rodeo, the carnival, the parade, and everything else. Be safe, have fun, and let's have a good Fiesta Days 2024.
I move to adjourn.
Second. Oh, we'll need that. Motion made by Councilwoman Beck, seconded by Councilman Cardin to adjourn council meeting to Fiesta Days celebration. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
We're adjourned. Thank you.